Hello everyone, my name is Marius Lodichka. I am from Europe, Lithuania. For those who don't know my channel, my work, lately I've been publishing and exploring Founder's techniques as found in his 1938 manual called Budo. Regarding this, I have stopped publishing those videos because simply I don't have anybody available for me to help with the filming. The COVID pandemic situation that doesn't help much too. I still have some more videos to make in my mind for my YouTube channel, but for now this is just not a possibility. I wish I could though. These are truly wonderful techniques and I'm eager to share it with you as soon as I can. So I've decided to make a video program that I've long wanted, but the time was not right, and I felt that my knowledge is not as mature yet, but now I feel this is just about the right time to make such program. I believe there's need for it. We live in the information technology age and it's really wonderful, but it also has a negative side. People with distorted and limited in understanding speaks up and seed confusion and misinformation about the art. I think we have too many examples of this happening. Aikido is already suffering from bad reputation and decline in popularity. So I believe we need more people with deep understanding to speak up and somewhat outweigh the distorted view of Aikido that general public has. The information I'm about to give you is a result of some 20 years of researching the art with ever-increasing enthusiasm. Rather than concentrating myself on a single style or climbing through the ranks, I've been focusing on researching history and philosophy and techniques of the founder of Aikido. Only now I feel somewhat confident enough to talk about these matters. It took me a lot of time and effort to gather and assimilate all this understanding, all this information. Many of the insights and perspectives I'm about to talk about, I believe for the most of you will be fresh and unknown. So I hope people will appreciate and benefit from this program, and please enjoy watching it. Thank you. So what is Aikido? Let's start from the name itself. The last sound, do, means way, a path, like in Kendo, the way of the sword, or Judo, the way of softness, or Karate-do, Iaido, etc. So the name suggests that this is the way of Aiki, Aikido. What is Aiki then? Ai means harmonize, unite. Ki means energy, spirit. So we have the way of unification with spirit. This concept of uniting with Ki or Chi, as called in China, is not a new thing. There are numerous Chinese martial arts that employ this principle, like Tai Chi, Bagua, Xingyi, Wing Chun. They call it Yin-Yang harmony, or Zhengding, or grand polarity principle. Also, Aiki has not been invented by the founder. It long existed in Aikido's parent art, Aiki Jiu-Jitsu, and in some of the old Kenjutsu traditions of Japan. In simple terms, Aiki means joining of mind and body to produce Ki, power of the martial arts. It is important to mention that Oshiba Sensei, founder of Aikido, said that his definition of Aiki is different, broader than those of the masters of the past. Creation of the art of Aikido is due to influences of three people. That's Sokaku Takeda Sensei, who brought the martial aspect to the art. Then Onisaburo Deguchi, the spiritual, philosophical aspect. And of course Morihei Oshiba, who joined all his life experiences to create a new path, which he finally named Aikido. So Aikido is martial art practice with strong spiritual emphasis. Now, most people think of Aikido as another style of self-defense, or style of fighting, or method of throwing and defeating people. All this are inaccurate definitions. Aikido is Buddha, a path of self-improvement, self-development, self-perfecting through the gateway of martial arts. So now let's look at Aikido from perspective of martial arts. Was O-sensei really that great? Does Aikido has any value in modern world? Is it effective? Why does it look so stylized and unrealistic? Why there are no sparring seemingly so crucial for any martial arts practice? And why Aikido is suffering from poor reputation? I hope I will clarify much of those questions by the end of this program. So what are the roots of Aikido as martial art? It is in Daitoryu Aiki Jujutsu as practiced and taught by the great master Sokaku Takeda Dai Sensei. It is the single most important influence to Aikido as martial art. Daitoryu, as practiced by Takeda Sensei, was ultimate martial art of Japan, secretly guarded from outsiders and disseminated only to selected individuals inside the Aizo samurai clan. Now, Takeda Sensei was raised and trained by the real old-time warriors. Right from the young age, Takeda displayed great interest and talent in martial arts. All he cared about was to become master of masters, to become undefeatable. He couldn't read or write. All his life was Bujutsu practice, or Budo Shugyo, life in martial arts pursuit. During his life, he had many encounters of life and death. He reportedly injured and killed many of his enemies. He was all about practical martial arts. He mastered sword arts, spear arts, staff, jujutsu. Finally, he received inner secrets of Aiki by his teacher Tanomo Saigo, and who encouraged him to open up this martial art for the public. So by the turn of the century, Sokaku began traveling around the country teaching seminars for military, police and other prominent people of Japan. You see, by this time, founder of Aikido, he had no dreams of becoming a martial artist. He was a leader of a Hokkaido settlement group to cultivate and develop unvillagered areas of Japan. More, he had strong urge to serve his country, to serve his community, but his old passion for martial arts was still alive. And when he heard that the truly exceptional strong Budoka was teaching in the area, he enrolled right away. It was a destined meeting. Now, to put things in a little context, have in mind that Oshiba Sensei was a young man then. After his military service and extreme labor in Hokkaido, he was extremely well conditioned and strong. Stories have been circling around about his Hercules strength, of how much he could lift, of how far he could run, jump, etc. Even though he was of short height, but he was heavy and wide, and his arms was like thick tree branches. Even in his old age, his students would say that he had no wrists because of its thickness. On top of that, Oshiba was a talented, sharp-minded man and already held certificates in martial arts and had trained many more. Especially he was outstanding in bayonet and sumo matches and in judo matches. And there was Takeda Sensei, old, nearly 60 years old, skinny man. He was a little shorter than Oshiba and significantly lighter in weight. But something was different about this master. His eyes was piercing, his face looked threatening, and he emitted intense atmosphere around him. Nonetheless, Oshiba had to try this master out himself, so he asked for permission to attack. Well, one would expect some sort of struggle, even if Takeda's techniques were of higher caliber and he was more experienced. He would still must have had trouble throwing such strong and experienced Oshiba. Unbelievable happened. As soon as Oshiba made contact with him, he was thrown right away, without understanding how. He attacked again and again, and every time he was handled like a baby. All his years spent in martial art pursuit, All his hard training and conditioning accounted to absolutely nothing. He was so shocked that such martial arts existed, and that he finally found a true master. He felt such an inspiration that, a story goes, tears appeared in his eyes, and while kneeling down, he asked for permission to become his student. Even though Oshiba was on other mission, he forgot everything in the world and stayed for entire months training with this master. Surely, Takeda Sensei quickly realized Morihi's true potential and said to him, "I will teach you. One day you can become a successor." Now, this is the only recorded case, I think, that Takeda himself offered to somebody to become his successor, showing how exceptionally talented Oshiba was. Also, Oshiba had good manners. He was a prominent member of his society, and he had money. It was expensive to study with Takeda, but hey, if you want to study with the best, you have to pay accordingly. Shortly after coming back to his home, Oshiba declared to his family that he had found a new path in his life, to become a martial artist. He then built a house and invited Takeda Sensei to stay and teach him the secrets of Aikido Jutsu. Again, it was an unusual move for Takeda. He permanently settled in Shirataki, Hokkaido, to be near his new star student and to give him all instruction he needed. This shows a close bond between student and a teacher. Founder said that Takeda Sensei opened his eyes to Budo. It means he was like blind before. All his previous experiences meant nothing. So what is it that made Takeda Sensei such an awe-inspiring master? He was master of esoteric knowledge and ability. He was master of Aiki, ability to manipulate life force energy, Ki. And he mastered this to extreme, to perfection. Amongst thousands of students that Takeda taught, only a handful learned the skill, and out of these handful, only 2 or 3 who truly mastered it. For example, the famous student of Takeda, Horikawa Kodo Sensei, after his lifelong training declared, "I'm nothing compared to Takeda Sensei's skill." People often visualize a martial artist to be someone like Bruce Lee, all ripped, shouting, jumping, landing punches and spinning kicks. But that's an accurate description of what real martial arts is about. In the old Aikido Jutsu, they were saying, "One cut, one life," and first contact, certain victory. So the roots of Aikido as martial art is in real, authentic, legitimate Bujutsu, art of war. Founder of Aikido has learned the essence and techniques of Aikido Jutsu really well. According to Takeda Sensei's son and the eventual successor of Daito Ryu tradition, Oshiba Sensei was the most loved and favored student of Sokaku, and he learned from his father for the longest. Fame of Morihi's skill began to spread far and wide, even though he was living in a rural area of Japan. And ultimately, with some help of his supporters, Oshiba Sensei relocated to Tokyo, teaching the secrets of martial arts to Japanese elite. Now, in Aikido, there are no competitions, there are no sparring, there are 2 roles in training: the attacker and defender, Nage and Uke. Actual techniques consist of throwing or pinning against single or multiple attackers, with or without weapons. In terms of basics, there are mostly joint manipulation techniques. Trainees learn the stance, distance control, use of martial shouts or kiai, and atemi, strikes to the vital areas. In that sense, Aikido is not very unique. Many of these techniques can be found in various other martial arts of Japan. The basic idea is blending with the attacker, avoiding his attack force, redirecting it, getting behind the attack line, and then applying throwing or pinning technique. But there is a problem. Anybody who have tried to apply these techniques against a resisting opponent knows how it's difficult to do so, and especially in a chaotic, real violent attack situation when your attack actually intends to hurt you. Also, adrenaline kicks in, fine motor skills becomes difficult to perform. Also, the intensity and unpredictability of an attacker becomes a real issue in applying anything successfully. But it obviously worked like a charm, at least for Takeda and Oshiba. Their reputation were enormous. This is all very well documented by contemporaries of their time. For instance, Takeda, since he had no headquarters, he traveled around mostly by himself, offering his usual 10-day seminars. When teaching, his tactics was to pick strongest looking men from the crowd and ask to attack him. And then he would throw and pin them instantly, or allow him to be grabbed any way opponents like, and then free himself in a flash. There are many stories about his incredible feats. Now, Oshiba sensei was outstanding too. I've collected many accounts of his martial abilities. Some top people from judo, sumo, jujutsu, kenjutsu, even boxing and wrestling were among his students, because everybody felt helpless against him. Some judoka even returned their ranks back to judo headquarters because of their experience with Oshiba. Judo founder Jigoro Kano himself visited Oshiba to witness his art, after which he said, "Aikido is my ideal judo. What we are doing is just a sport," and sent some of his best to study with O-sensei. In short, Oshiba was widely regarded as top martial artist of Japan. Now, Takeda sensei had more competency and experience in martial arts, but he was extremely strict and demanding teacher, and his way of teaching was very secretive. He would only show technique once, and when he demonstrated pinning techniques, it was unbearable for most people. On top of that, he would sometimes charge money per technique, so only strong in body and mind, and of the right character, and with enough money, people could study. Oshiba was not that strict, so he had much more students and taught in all prestigious military institutions. As a result of this, he'd been tested many times, and his reputation grew year by year. There are people who say, "Oh, that was different era. People were living in a sword culture, and there were no modern ways of competing and fighting. That's why Aikido worked back then." Really? Sword culture was over even before Shiba Sensei's birth. It was forbidden to carry a sword or dagger. Or do you really think people of old were stupid and didn't know that attacking fiercely with rapid strikes and kicks works well? You think there were no combat sports in Japan 100 years ago? Combat sports, competitive sports were popular even back then. Sumo, karate, judo, wrestling, boxing, etc. All these sports were widely practiced. Look, regarding this, it was all the same. People still had two arms, two legs, and human psyche and the natural laws of physics were all the same, and will remain the same. People were not stupid back then. They knew how to strike or grapple, that's for sure. So what is going on? Why there are nobody to demonstrate Aikido skills in a competitive environment, and people who dare to try have failed? Some say this is because O-sensei watered down techniques of Aikido Jujutsu after the war to fit his ever-increasing spiritual worldview, that he removed strikes, competitiveness, aggressiveness from the techniques. That's not accurate. There is no sparring in the Aikido Jujutsu 2, Aikido sparring art, and never has been. Training method, attacks, core techniques remain the same as before the war, so after the war. From technical standpoint, the difference between Aikido Jujutsu and Aikido is that there are fewer techniques. Many complex or devastating techniques were removed. Techniques like multiple limb holds, or the ones that puts your partner into somewhat humiliating positions, were all removed. But core techniques, strikes, distancing control, martial shouts, things like that remained unchanged. Also, techniques of Daito-ryu is less circular. It's not that circle don't exist in Daito-ryu. It's that simply there's less of it. When Oshiba Sensei throwed somebody, he did it more circularly. He allowed to take a safe fall and roll away most of the time. When Takeda Sensei threw, he usually crushed his opponent under his feet. Oshiba made some of these changes, as he explained, to develop martial art to be best suited for the modern times. Now, don't get me wrong, what O-sensei learned from Takeda Sensei was highly refined martial art, without equal. But you see, it was perfect in the old sense of Bujutsu, the art of surviving battlefield. The spirit of the old Daitoryu was that of killing with a single strike, pinning your enemy with your feet while you draw your dagger to cut his head off. Also, there were numerous techniques to deal with the armored opponents, things like that. O-sensei felt that these times are over, and encouraged by his spiritual teacher, he gradually distanced himself from the Daitoryu ways. Now again, don't get me wrong, O-sensei never removed martial essence from his art. For him, Aikido has been always strongly rooted in Buddha. Even after the war, his students recalled how tough it was to train under him, how most students in Iwama, his hometown, after the war, would last only 3 days, how demanding the training was, to the point of bleeding knees and total exhaustion. They are, for instance, saying in Chinese Tai Chi Chuan that if done right, it's one of the best martial arts, and if done wrong, it's one of the worst. It's similarly the same in Aikido. Everywhere I look, people seem to miss that point completely. Aiki Jujutsu and Aikido techniques are designed to work with ki. It's completely not designed to work with simple strength. It's like electrica. It's designed to work with electricity as power source, not with diesel or gas. Without internal power development, without ki, Aikido is just empty shell, like car without engine. So don't expect it to be efficient or practical. Without developing ki, you can create any number of Aikido styles you want. It still won't work. You see, while studying old documents, I couldn't understand why the techniques are so strange, illogical. I mean, this is how real fighting looks like. Clear logical principles, striking fast, striking strong, striking a lot, moving a lot, works best, isn't it? Effective techniques, wrestling, grappling, looks like this. Also, sparring is the most essential in learning this efficiently. And in Aiki arts, everything is almost opposite. Fingers wide open, no chain striking, no sparring, everything looks very stylized and prearranged. I mean, how come this is a pin, a hold? How can you throw anybody like that? How can you possibly pin a person like that? Why one performs techniques with open hands, or why would you grab somebody and exclude one of the strongest fingers in the arm from holding? So all these things made no sense for a long time. At one point, I even thought that Oshiba Sensei is faking his techniques on camera as to not reveal the real thing. I knew that in reality he was exceptional master. The evidence was overwhelming, and then if you look at Daitoryu Aiki Jiu-Jitsu, it's all the same things. The same methods are used in training. Takeda Sensei himself sometimes would provoke people, saying, "It looks prearranged, doesn't it? Come and try me." Oshiba Sensei once said, "Your skill should be so refined that it would look prearranged for us." Primary goal is to develop Aiki, ability to work with internal energy, your life force. And if you concentrate on sparring, competing, you'll simply cease to develop more subtle qualities necessary for this martial art. Sensei said, in training, we focus on development of breath power with each other. This is where the real training is aimed. Why this is so important? Once you develop your Kokuryoku, your Aiki, your entire body, your limbs becomes able to project ki. And once your opponent makes contact with your arms, with your body, his power drains away.
Come! Stuck! So now I have you on pulling, you feel the difference?
Yes.
Yep.
It's like I'm ice skating.
Yeah, so you can do whatever you want, doesn't matter. Come now.
He becomes stuck with your ki, unable to offer sufficient resistance. More so, He's unable to detach from your body. His own body becomes numb. Takeda's students would say that once you made contact with Takeda sensei, you wouldn't let go. Masters of the old master this to perfection. This is why muscular development is not necessary. This is why skinny old Takeda was able to toss young, strong Ueshiba as a ragdoll. And this is why Aikido Jiu-Jitsu and Aikido techniques look so strange. Your ki, your life energy, is best expressed through the hands. This is why most techniques are performed with the fingers opened, so your ki could run freely and unobstructed, and capture your opponent's ki, so he's stuck. This is why these types of holds or throws work. Since his body was not hard, it was soft, and yet those who grabbed him always spoke of their power draining away. It was as though his body negated or absorbed your power. At the moment that Sensei laid a hand on me, it felt as if my mind had gone blank. There was no feeling that Sensei's body was separate from mine. What I can't understand even now was the feeling of his wrists. When you grabbed his wrist, it felt as if you were somehow floating. There was an elastic force, and even though I was grabbing, it felt as if I was being grabbed. I would try to grab O-sensei's arm with all my strength, but it was an entirely different feeling than grabbing someone else's arm. Try as I might, I was unable to use my force. You and him moved together, and suddenly you were on the floor, incapable of moving, and you couldn't figure out why. For no reason, you could not put any strength in your limbs. None of us understood why we always found ourselves laying on the floor. With my title and excellent personal situation, I was often inclined to become contemptuous and proud. But just at that period, I had a frightful experience, which immediately dissolved the opinion I had of myself. At that time, Master Ueshiba was already over 60 years old, and at first seemed to be just an ordinary old man. He said to me point blank, "Come and try me." With great experience in combat, I immediately judged that I had nothing to fear from this adversary. But from the instant I felt the peculiar contact of Master Ueshiba's arms, I experienced, to my great surprise, a numbness over my entire body and a sensation of total helplessness. I was then thrown in such an extraordinary manner that I decided on spot to study this incomparable art. O-sensei would demonstrate this skill all the time to stress the importance of it. One of his most impressive demonstrations was to lay on the ground and let several men hold him strongly, and then he would shake off everybody instantly. We see here Takeda Sensei's son. This is another favorite trick that his father used to show. People on the ground were unable to get up until he released them. And here Ueshiba Sensei performs a similar feat while being grabbed all around. In Aiki, it's not simply about projecting energy outwards. Once you master it well, you may also project it downwards, or forward, or upwards. This is called Aiki Agi, a rising dragon. Takeda Sensei would grab a piece of paper and instruct his partner to hold on the other end, like this. So then his partner suddenly would start to rise on his toes. Yet another incredible feat Ueshiba Sensei sometimes would show was to take a piece of paper and invite his partner to grab the other end. And while still holding on it, his opponent would be thrown down. O-sensei said that one should be able to throw somebody without tearing the paper. He would demonstrate all these feats until his death. He could make his body unmovable, unpushable. Techniques applied against him by his young, strong students simply wouldn't work. He demonstrated it very often. Regarding the joint twisting techniques, they are only secondary, complementary. Ueshiba Sensei said that they are good for clearing dust and rust from the joints, so the blood and energy could flow freely. Gozo Shioda Sensei wrote in his book that, for example, in Nikkyo, students were not brought down because of unbearable pain, but because they felt the energy sinking down, dropping through the center. This is why Ueshiba Sensei's techniques worked well even against resisting opponents. Even though Shioda Sensei was master in judo, Ueshiba Sensei said to him to forget what he had learned before. This is how different Aikido is. Then there is another level, sensing energy, leading energy. In Aiki, it is not about energy direction, it's also about perception of information. In Tai Chi, for example, it's called Tingjing, listening energy. After contact point is created with the arms, you can train yourself to feel his intentions through the energy and respond to anything he attempts. In Aiki arts, if you succeed in developing your breath power to the fullest, it's not necessary to make physical contact. You can sense intention and then project intention through distance. Ueshiba Sensei spoke about forming the curtain of ki, kinomaku, between your hand and your opponent's hands. This is the meaning of Osensei Kuden. The movement of your hands is in your head, meaning you should be able to project your mind, your ki, your intent through your hands and beyond. And then lead opponents into attempted grab. This is why there's so many techniques from the grabs. Similarly, Takeda Sensei, if he concentrated on somebody, seemingly he could read their mind, the character. For example, when he was teaching in Osaka, to everybody's amazement, he aligned group of people according to their rank or position. He called it aligning people through Aiki. He could spot a troublemaker in the crowd this way and ask him to leave immediately. He wouldn't teach people of lower morals. In that sense, Takeda Sensei was truly exceptional master. He wouldn't allow his teachings to be misused for evil purposes. So now, no matter how all this sounds advanced and incredible, there is even a higher level. Osensei taught that there's 3 dimensions of Aikido. That's manifest dimension, hidden dimension, and divine. Manifest dimension is about the forms, the techniques. Hidden dimension is about energies, ki control, and divine dimension, divine level, communicating with the forces of nature. Now, I'm nowhere near this level. I can only talk about what Osensei taught his students and wrote about. But this is what Aikido is really about. This is the highest level in Aiki, highest level in martial arts, highest level in any authentic spiritual practices. In Chinese martial arts, this is called emptiness level, joining, dwelling with the emptiness, the void. The great legendary master of Chinese martial arts, Sun Lutang, said that he has learned that in martial arts, only Wu Yu Xiang of Wu Tai Chi, Yang Luchan, founder of Tai Chi Chuan, Dong Hui Chuan, founder of Bagua, and Lin Gian of Xingyuan had reached the supreme level. He said sometimes he's also able to work with this mysterious energy, and he said there is simply no words to describe what he felt. There probably has been more masters, but the point is only exceptional individuals reach this level. Osensei also called it merging with the void, with the emptiness, ku. If you won't dwell with the emptiness, you cannot understand Aikido, he would say. Osensei taught that from one source came 2, matter and spirit, yin and yang. He said that true techniques of Aikido comes from the emptiness. It's the true meaning of his term Takemuso Aiki, the techniques born from spiritual unity. Masakatsu Agatsu Katsu Hayabi was his core teaching. Masakatsu means true victory. Agatsu means self-victory. This means correct victory is not about defeating other human beings. Correct victory is about defeating yourself, your lower instincts, your own ego. This is work of purification, or misogi. Katsu Hayabi means speed that transcends time and space. This means unity of individual spirit with universal spirit, with the void. So there's no more duality, there's no more attacker, no defender. Everything is one on this level. The moment your opponent thinks of doing harm to you, his intention instantly is perceived by your spirit. Osensi taught that whole universe is held together with the power of ki, which is beyond time and space. It's instant, faster than the speed of light itself. It's not some philosophical nonsense. Osensi demonstrated this unity of the spirit all the time. It was simply impossible to hide intention to attack him. I've collected many stories of this kind. Even while sleeping, he would wake up immediately if somebody attempted to attack him. A human mind, a human willpower extends beyond body, that's for sure. And spiritually sensitive people can pick it up. For example, many people experience the feeling of being stared at. Another term frequently employed by the founder was Ame no Ukihashi, standing on the floating bridge of heaven. He said, if you're not standing on the floating bridge of heaven, you cannot perform Aikido. Ame no Ukihashi means connecting your spirit to the spirit of heaven and earth. Osensi taught that there is ki coming from the heavens and there's ki coming from below, from the earth. You must learn to sense these energies and assimilate with it. Interestingly, this is the core concept in authentic Tai Chi and Bagua of Chinese martial arts. Again, it's about connecting your individual spirit with that of the nature itself. Wherever I had looked, I found that all spiritually advanced beings, enlightened individuals, regardless of time or culture, talked about the same thing. Divine is not something in the sky. Divine is inside earth. It is in heaven. It is inside you. Aikido is path of joining heaven, earth and humankind. This is what true meaning of Aikido is in Aikido. Joining your spirit with that of the heaven and earth, with the void, with the forces of nature, with divine. Osensi taught that this gives highest possible happiness human beings can possibly attain. On that level, the very concept of fighting or defeating anybody becomes meaningless. Your opponent is merely misguided spirit that you lead out of aggressive state. You and your opponent breathe as one. He's inside you. There's no reason to fight. There's no opponent. There's no Oshiba. There's no time, no space, only universe as it is. Inhale his spirit completely. He becomes part of my being. His spirit, upon contact with me, gets purified, and he immediately realizes his folly of his actions. The very need to fight anybody disappears. This is what great master Morihei Ueshiba actually taught. Now, skeptically thinking people might don't like this or think this can be real because they had no such experiences. They don't know anybody who's that advanced. It's understandable. But this doesn't change the fact that such great people existed in this world. Founder students didn't get anywhere near his level. They were not interested in what Founder said. It seemed too complex to comprehend. They thought it should be enough just to copy and practice the techniques. His students had no difficulty acknowledging that Founder was completely on a different level. Even though Founder scolded them repeatedly, don't focus on the outer forms. Learn and forget them. Techniques are not necessary. Try to grasp what I'm saying. Feel what I'm doing. It's not about the body, it's about the spirit. Aikido is study of the spirit, but nobody listened. Out of thousands of his students, only a handful understood Founder's teachings on deeper level. Students like Kancho-san on the body, Nijiro Shirata, Seiseki Abe, or Mikitsuchi Hicho and Kishomaru Yoshiba. They are all gone now. Many people, including Osensi's own students, said that true Aikido will die together with the Founder. But now we have many styles to choose from, don't we? Iwama style, hard style, so-called rationalized style, Aikikai, aesthetic, dancing-like style, Yosekan, Aikido, the style that mixes all together karate, judo, and kendo, and Aikido into one. Tomiki style, style of fusing Aikido techniques with judo sparring. Nisho Aikido, style of fusing karate with Aikido techniques, and so on. People say, oh, our style is great because our teacher spent longer learning from the founder. Others say, no, our style is great. We are more modern. We do sparring with each other. It's all irrelevant. It's not about the forms, this or that style. Aikido is about the spirit. There cannot be styles, really. There is only one Aikido. There's only one founder. Talking about efficiency, no matter which style, it's still very limited. It still cannot match against pure external stylists, against grapplers, and against striking arts of combat sports. If you want to compete against combat sports, using outer techniques, using forms of Aikido, this is not possible without changing Aikido forms and teaching methods completely. Adding striking, adding kicking, adding sparring, but then Aikido will completely lose its essence. It won't longer be Aikido, it will become something else. This is because Aikido is 100% internal martial art. Movements and techniques are designed to work hand in hand with internal power, or kokuryoku, or Aiki. Therefore, it's useless to alter founder's forms or create new techniques expecting improvement of Aikido. I already demonstrated that founder's techniques hadn't changed after the war. Think about it, why it is so. Ultimately, why would you take Aikido classes if all you're interested in is to learn to fight? There are much faster ways to learn it. Aikido is subtle, it's complex, it is a lifetime journey. It takes many years and hard and correct training before techniques comes alive. Efficiency in combat should not be your only focus. Anyway, Osensei said, I wonder if other people see my Aikido as just another martial art, and I worry about it. Don't they know? This approach will never take them anywhere. He said, I worked very hard to open up the way of Aiki, but when I stop and look behind, I see nobody following me. Aikido is one. It's not what you want it to be, it's what it is. Masakatsu Agatsu, true victory is self-victory. Victory over your lower self. Haku. The aim is to develop your spirit, your higher self. Kon. People have flesh and blood, but there is precious jewel inside you, your own spirit, your true self. Osensei said, polish your spirit by purifying your six senses. It's work on misogi. Aikido can make your spirit surface. Your ego will drop. Your mind and body will become healthy. Heat, light and power will radiate from your entire being. Your true purpose in life will become clear. That's what Masakatsu Agatsu means. On the larger scale, Aikido is there to make you integral part of society. Serve your family, serve your country, making the world a better place, more beautiful place. This is the true mission of Aikido. This is what Osensei actually taught. In that sense, Aikido has nothing to do with fighting, nothing to do with competing. Aikido should never become a sport. It should never lose its original purpose. I believe there will come a time when Osensei will be widely recognized not only as one of the greatest martial artists, but also as one of the greatest human beings who ever lived. His student Hiroshi Tada said that he felt that if human beings would ever evolutionize and progress, they would become like Ueshiba Sensei. Now, it doesn't mean learning martial arts techniques or acting like Japanese or something. It means being completely healthy in mind, body and spirit, true integral human being. One day, Osensei concluded his daily prayers at Aiki Shrine in Iwama and began to speak in a soft and thoughtful voice to his student. People often say that I created Aikido through my study of many martial arts, but the way of Takemosaiki that I'm thinking of is different. It was born through divine laws of the universe. I only followed and conveyed it to others. I did not create Aikido. Aikido is the way of the kami, the way of the divine. Do you think human beings could possibly have created these laws? The shrewdness of human intelligence is not enough to understand this. If we neglect the divine, our lives are worthless. So again, Aikido is not another martial art. It's not a sport. It's not self-defense. It's the study of the spirit, experiencing spiritual union within your lifetime, the highest joy and happiness human beings can attain. Budo or martial arts serves as gateway for that purpose. We should train day by day, eliminating our flaws one by one, eliminating our egocentric desires, so to experience purity of the spirit within our own lifetime. Surely, it's easier to speak about it than actually do it, but we should strive for it daily. And let us please all train together. Thank you for watching.